Hey guys, welcome back to Real Life Scenario.
Real Life Scenario.
Yeah. Shout out to all our real lovers out there. Happy New
Happy
Year.
2024, people.
We made it.
Phew. Never.
Never would have made it. Never would have made it.
Come on. It's my guy right here. One thing we gonna do is sing and dance, okay? Happy New Year, Dre.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you.
How you feeling? You got a glow about you. Like it's some
Dude,
new things.
number one, I took my
year.
time on my makeup this morning. That's thing number one. But yes, I'm feeling good. I think the new year brings, new energy, and I'm excited about that.
That's good.
I'm excited
That's
about
good.
that. Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm very excited too. What'd you do for New Year's?
I went to New York. My friend Crystal and her husband.
Oh yeah, I saw that on your story.
They had a nice little party at their house. I love going to the Smith residence, that Smith residence, and we had a good time. Great food, good music. I learned how to play left, center, right, which is a very fun, simple game. But if you play with money, it gets competitive.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna have this at like every house kickback situation that I'm having. But it's a super simple game, but it was so intense and we had a ball. Like that was the highlight of the night for me, the game.
Wow.
Yes. It's literally like dice and they all have directions on them and you just roll based on the number of dollars that you have and it'll tell you what to do with it. So like left, center, right means you have a left action, a center action, and a right action. And you just have to give the money in that way. And you can only play when you still have money in your hand. So like if it rolls two left icons in a center, I have to give $2 to the person to my left and then $1 to the bank, which is center. It's very simple, but it was very fun.
Got you.
Yes. A couple people walked away with like $40.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
I lost
like
$10.
Got you.
Yeah. So it was good. It was good. What did you do?
Well, funny that you say that game wise, because I did something. We had a few couples over for Christmas. Like our place ain't big enough to have like 15 couples at a time. So we got sectioned it up.
Yeah.
But we played a game too. You ever played a game called Tapple?
No.
Tapple? Yeah. It's a very interesting, again, a simple game.
Yeah.
Right. But it just was like, like this was fun.
This was fun.
And basically it's like a big circle with letters that you could push down on the sides. And then it's a timer in the middle.
Okay.
And basically you just pull a card. So it's like celebrity names. So then if there's a B present, you hit the B and say Beyonce, somebody who starts with that.
Okay.
And then you tap the middle and the timer goes off again. And then somebody has to do one and then the timer goes off again. And you got to keep going around and naming people and you can't repeat it. And then if you get all the names down, then you hit the button, all of them pop back up, and then you got to just keep playing. And it's like,
I want to play. I love games.
Because people just sitting there, you freeze like
share. Somebody already said that. You can't say share. Yes, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, so that was fun. But that was over Christmas. For New Year's, I went on my first cruise. It was a bucket list thing for my grandfather.
Okay.
So it was me, my aunt, my cousins, and Bree. And I was skeptical because my wife hates cruises.
Yeah.
Hates them with a passion.
I hate the concept of them as well.
But it wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, I think that, if I were to go again, we'll do like a more updated ship, or I would, because Bree made it clear that she's not going on any more cruises. But I would do it on a more updated ship. And it was a 7-day cruise, but it was like cool. And Bree and I had like actually a good time. Like, when you're in certain situations, you make the best out of what you're doing. And then I also said, like, I'm there with my two best friends, essentially. I'm there with like my wife, and then I'm there with Tyrell, who everybody who knows me, that's like, he's my cousin, but that's like my brother.
Yes.
So it made it all enjoyable, but that was cool. Like spend that time. And then kind of the second half of it was just being on the water, reading, taking that time away. The Wi-Fi was horrible, so it forces you to disconnect, which is great. So I enjoyed it overall, and then got back still on a Saturday so I can enjoy Saturday and Sunday. So it was cool.
Good.
But I want to shout out a girl named Christy because she came up to me on the cruise. I was at dinner and she was like, "Can I just say something to you?" She was like, "I love the podcast. I love all the shows. I love For the Girls. I love Worth the Wait, and I love Real Love Scenarios." She was like, "I'm a real lover," and I was like, "Shout out to you." Yo.
Hey,
she was like, "I was
girl.
looking like, where Rhonda at?" That's what she said, and I was like, "Yeah, on this cruise," because it was about the age group was about 55 and up for the most part.
Yeah.
So it was like cool to have her come up. So shout out to Christy for coming up and listening to the show. You are a real lover for sure, and we appreciate you.
Hey, girl. Hey, I want to shout out somebody too who did the same thing yesterday.
Awesome.
I was at a house party. Happy birthday, Noelle, one of my homies. And she came up to me in the party and she was like, "I think I follow you on Instagram." And I was like, "Okay, cool. What's your name?" And her name is Summer. And she says she listens to the podcast and she enjoys it. So, hey, Summer.
Real lovers in person. We love that.
We love that. We absolutely love that. It had like a little kid and play theme, the party. And I feel like the vast majority of us did not participate in the theme, but she did and she killed it.
Y'all did y'all little one time.
We just danced hard. No matter what the music was, we danced hard. But she definitely committed to the look. Like she had the flipped head and like the circle glasses, like from that vibe, from that time. So she killed the look.
I would have loved to go to that party. I would have told Bree to dress up like Shanae, and I would have been Kid because that's my favorite episode of Martin. Forever Shanae. That's what it's called.
Forever Shanae.
I love that episode.
I love it too. I love it too.
What do you want to accomplish this year, 2024? Like, what's the plan? What's the goal? What
do I want to accomplish? Jesus, that's a big question.
Let's keep it high level then.
Yeah, I think high level. I'm gonna go with something that just probably sounds very like diplomatic and high level. Like I just want to be joyful. I just want to have a lot more joy in my life in 2024.
Joy and peace.
Yes, like I just want to. Well, I will say this. Here's another one. I really want to have like a strong sense of like financial discipline. I feel like that's not something that I focus on. Like I do pretty good, but sometimes I'm just going with vibes. And I can't go with vibes, right? I'm not making millions of dollars where I can just go with vibes. I saw a meme that was like, this year my goal is to stop spending money like a drug dealer. And it's like, yes, mine as well. Like, no, I don't need that. I don't need the tomahawk. I don't. Go to the grocery store, get you a nice little New York strip, and go home and cook it.
The issue is that there's two people inside of you.
The drug dealer.
And the person trying to be responsible.
Yes.
And the drug dealer, like, you work hard.
You deserve it.
You deserve this tomahawk.
You do.
Guess what? Your check gonna clear in 2 weeks again.
It's gonna you're gonna get paid. You're gonna get paid again. It's okay. I gotta stop with that type of self-talk. I have to stop it. So joy and like financial control and discipline. I want to get better in both departments.
Got you.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's the same for me. Joy, peace, and just continuous growth. That's all I want. Continue to grow. I don't want to go backwards at this point in my life.
No.
I want to keep moving forward and doing things the right way.
Good.
Awesome.
It's gonna happen.
For sure.
We're gonna flash back to this in 12 months and see how we did.
For sure. Well, this is a relationship podcast, guys, but we had to discuss the main thing that's been hitting the internet over the past couple of days.
Woo.
Mr. Truth Teller himself.
Supposedly. Mr. Kit Kat.
Mr. Katt Williams.
Yes, indeed.
Had his interview on Chloe Shay Shay. Chloe Shay Shay starting to make a
real splash.
A real splash, ain't it?
Yes, he is. I mean, he's bringing in really high level guests and that bring a lot of energy to the show.
Yeah.
And Shannon is also just so damn country.
Yeah.
That even the way he asks questions or like his responses to things, it just makes it very entertaining to watch.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
But Katt, I mean, I don't even think he needed a interviewer. No. He could have just sat there and kept going his whole self.
Yep, absolutely. Honestly, I think Katt probably could have made that money. Looking at how much money Shannon is going to make off that episode.
Yes.
He should give Katt a cut. He really should give Katt a cut.
For sure. So for those who decided not to watch all 2 hours and 46 minutes of it.
Yeah, because I've tried it.
Which it was. It's very tough to watch anything for that long.
Yeah.
Even movies, like now all movies are like 3 hours now.
Yes.
And it's like, you be sitting in theater, it's like, good Lord. If I got to take 2 bathroom breaks during a movie, it's too long. But I would just want to get your thoughts on the interview, on the truth teller, on the exposing of all the comedians.
Unpopular opinion. It just didn't come across as truth teller to me. It just didn't. Like certain parts of it, yes. I mean, I think things that you can easily find out by doing some research, like he's telling the truth about, like the whole Cedric the Entertainer joke. Now, I don't know if Cedric ever performed that joke prior to then that's documented where we can see it. But for the 2 places that it is documented, Kings of Comedy and when Katt did it on Comic View, Katt did it on Comic View first. The joke wasn't exactly the same, but all of the vibes about riding a car and yes, the part was exactly the same. So like, that's the truth. But some of the other stuff is just like, it's speculation. It's just things that he's heard or things he's experienced, or the Mark Curry, Steve Harvey thing. That also, again, it's like you can see the similarities. Hanging with Mr. Cooper was out first, and it has certain parts to it that you saw repeated in the Steve Harvey show. Fine. But it was a lot. It was a lot for me, and I felt like, is he okay? Like, is he okay? And then it was just moments where it did feel like he was just hating. Like, even if they did do certain things or give oral sex to get ahead, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, what can is it hurting you that somebody decided to do that for their own gain? I mean, I guess I just don't understand why he seems so hell bent about it. Like, it just seems like he's really mad at everybody else's path and how they got to the path. And I didn't see the whole thing. So it just was hard. It was hard for me to watch it and see what everyone else was seeing. Like, he's telling the truth. I was like, I don't know if he's telling the whole truth. I think some parts are, but other parts, it just felt like conjecture and a stand-up special. So I tried to take it in that energy that he's just like, a lot of this is jokes. A lot of this is he's just telling jokes. He's being performative. And it was like, all right, cool. I'm going to take it as that. But the fact that the internet is running with this is Bible and this is the truth. I'm like, I didn't get all of that from it.
Got you.
I didn't. What did you take from it?
Oh, man. So I think I might have watched 2 hours and 15 minutes of it.
Okay.
But I think I missed a part in the middle. It just like picked up. I started it, picked up. But I think it was a mixture of a lot of different things in there. I think that there was a lot of wisdom if you hear some of the things that he's talking about. Because somebody being in the business for that long, they just understand, they see certain things, observe certain things. And I would say he's an observant person, can articulate himself well because he is a comedian, that's his job. So there were some things, there were like some gems in there, like life gems that I thought were really good. When it comes to the truth telling, I think there was, like you said, some things that you proven to be true. I think that just because you were offered an opportunity and you said no to something and somebody else said yes, I don't think that's a reason to bash them for saying yes to it.
Right.
And I didn't necessarily get as much hating as just like, he's just telling the reality of the situation or his truth from his perspective, I guess.
Yes.
But I think the borderline thing that I came away from this, and I've talked to different comedians about this, some who he mentioned in the episode as well, is that there's just this underlining thing sometimes when it comes to comedians that stand-up is the holy grail of comedy.
Yes.
That if you don't do stand-up, you're not a true comedian. And I just don't think that that's true.
It's not.
I think that every comedian has their lane, and I think that there are things that some of the people that he named can do that he can't do.
He can't do. Correct.
So I think that like all the things that he's talking about. So let's say, for instance, Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is probably one of, whatever you say about him, whether you think it's funny or not, he's one of the best hosts ever. Like,
yes,
he's hosted everything from Miss America, game shows, award
Showtime
shows,
at the Apollo,
and then also not many people can do basically like what Bill Cosby did with Kids Say the Darndest Things with little big shots, working with kids, 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
Steve's good at that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Katt could do that. Maybe he could, but I don't think every comedian could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And some people operate in that world and they're better. Different people, like Regina Hall is a great host.
Yep.
Anthony Anderson is a great host. Like, those are people who in that lane of comedy are more suited for that, to where stand-up may not be their thing. You have some people who are great writers when it comes to comedic writers, and they could write show after show after show after show. And it's like, oh, that person's a dope writer. Or somebody, even like Ricky Smiley. I work for Urban One. I can tell you right now, Ricky's a beast on radio. He does numbers. He's the top talent in the company on radio.
Yeah.
Radio king.
Mm-hmm.
That's his lane as a comedian. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody has their areas and places. So I just don't think, it's kind of almost saying like, if you can't freestyle, you're not a good rapper. And it's like,
everybody can't
freestyle.
Yeah.
And there's some people who can freestyle, but they can't put together a good album.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
And there's some people who are great stand-up comedians, like he talked about Earthquake, who when it comes to movies and all that other stuff, it just doesn't translate.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing. Like, I think Katt's amazing. I think he has a lot of great insight. Mm-hmm. He's a legend in comedy. I heard he's extremely generous with how he gives to people and things like that.
Opportunity, money, access, all of that. And I think he's one of the funniest. I do. I have seen him live. I've seen plenty of his specials. I think that Katt Williams is, like, as a stand-up comedian, one of the best ever. Best of all time. Like, top 5 for me. But all the other stuff, like you said, it's just like, that doesn't have to be everybody's lane. Like, comedy is just way too expansive for you to determine them to not be funny just because you don't think they're funny or just because they don't do stand-up well. It's just, I say this about people and they're like, oh, I don't think Kevin Hart is funny. And I'm like, he's funny to clearly plenty of people because he's making a significant amount of money off of being funny. So he's just not funny to you. And that's the part that we have to keep adding on to these types of statements. The person I don't enjoy, just like I don't enjoy Katt as an actor. As Money Mike, yes. As anything else, I mean, it feels like Money Mike just over and over and over again in different movies. Like, so do I want to, would Katt Williams make me want to run to a movie theater to see a film? No, if it wasn't a stand-up. No, it wouldn't. But that doesn't mean that he's not funny as hell. Like, he's very funny to me. So yeah, that's the part for me that was just like, all right, like, we got it. We got it. I'm clear. So I'm like an hour and a half in. I'm going to keep trying to get through it. And I do think there was some great insight, like you said, like some really good gems that you can take through any part of life, whether you're a star, a comedian, whatever. There were some really good takeaways. And ultimately, the man is funny. He was very funny in the interview. Yeah.
I mean, for you to, there are people who watch the whole thing, and for somebody to hold your attention that long, that's talent.
Yeah.
And
even down to his timing. It was like certain questions he would ask and he would just sit there like,
you tell me.
I don't know. What do you think? It's like, he's just funny. He's funny. Yes.
But I feel like this is a sign that this 2024 seems going to be a year of exposing.
Yeah.
And the light is going to be shined in some dark places, boy, because I can start to see it. And I'm starting to see more and more and more and more that just like, and I'm going to get off my soapbox so we can move on. Mm-hmm. But just like, there were things when I was a kid that you were able to say.
Yeah.
Just because that was just okay to do. You could see it in shows, whether that was the R word for people who are acting, slow in your mind, or the F word or the G word. Like, that was just normal, and it wasn't seen as offensive outwardly or anything like that. And that was just a culture in the time, during that moment, and you have to adjust. Mm-hmm. I feel like the culture and how the way of doing things in a certain time, especially in the entertainment industry, was this just misogynistic, just manipulative, gatekeeping, sweep things
just
under the
dirty
rug
business
type of culture.
Yes.
And I think that, yes, those people are to blame, but I think you're seeing it so much because that was just the culture.
Norm,
That was the norm. That's what you did. That's how things operated. Yeah. And now you're going to start to see all this coming to light, and all not by chance. I think a lot of people of that era is getting accused because that was just how you did things. So
Yeah, yes.
2024 is going to be interesting to see how this all going to
it is
how this all going to unfold. But before we move on to our Real Lover review, I just want you guys to mark your calendar. Our next event is coming up on February 29th. We'll announce more details, but just mark your calendar for that time. It's going to be another live podcast, but the concept is going to be a lot different, a lot more audience involvement and engagement. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. We're super excited.
February 29th. Just put the save the date on there right now.
Get your winter coats and everything. I don't want it's cold outside. No, come.
Yeah.
But let's get into our Real Lover review. We are glad to have our Real Lovers back. And if you're new here, welcome. You're officially part of the Real Lover gang. And if you are new here, part of that initiation to the gang is pretty easy. It's just liking,
easy,
subscribing,
easy,
sharing the podcast,
easy,
and leaving us a 5-star review if you like it.
Very simple. Very simple. Takes probably less than 10 minutes.
Nothing to do that.
Yeah, nothing at all.
And we will love you if you do that. That's all you need to do to be in a Real Lover gang. So let me read this Real Lover review. This is from BB Mixon.
Hey, BB.
Via Apple Podcast review. 5-star.
Yes.
A refreshing take on reality. I've been a fan since the podcast started and I've been hooked. I moved to Baltimore from Michigan 2 years ago for work and school, and it all just started from following Rhonda and Dre just to be in the know of what goes on here. Best decision I made. Oh. Baltimorean now. Michigan to Baltimore. The podcast feels like I'm listening to family or having a parked car conversation with friends at night after breaking bread. This is the podcast I wish for everyone to get to experience and see things from a different lens that isn't rooted in selfishness, false idea of individuality and pain. Praying for new grace and favor in the years to come for you guys where this podcast is taking y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We pray for grace and favor in the new year for you too.
Yes. Hey, Baltimore. That makes me happy.
Be more. You got to get your twos and shoes down.
Mm-hmm. You made a good decision by moving to Baltimore. Very nice. And thank you for
Baltimore's
the review.
been good to me.
Yes,
we
indeed.
appreciate that. Okay, Rhonda, you ready for the real life love scenario?
I am ready. I definitely am.
Okay, so we talking about Simone Biles and Jonathan Owens. We haven't recorded in a while, so we know there's a little in the past, but we got to get to it because that was a major conversation. So this has been discussed all around, but I'm quoting this information from writer Elizabeth Ayola from Essence Magazine. She writes a lot of their relationship stuff.
Okay.
So Simone Biles and Jonathan Owens recently sat down to share their love story on the Pivot podcast hosted by retired football players Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder. The conversation about their relationship started when Crowder asked Owens how he managed to pull the Olympic gold medalist. Owens began by saying it's really how she pulled the man. That's the question. He explained that they matched on Raya. Is that what it is? Raya, a membership-based dating app which the couple had disclosed before. I'm like, let me see who this is. I never paid attention to gymnastics, Owens said, explaining that he didn't know she was the greatest gymnast of all time, so it piqued his curiosity. Biles made the first move, messaging the former Missouri Western standout and liking his Instagram post. Later in the interview, Clark jokingly asked Owens whether he was the catch, and Owens replied by saying he definitely was. I always say that men are the catch, he said. Commentators on the blogs weren't crazy about what he had to say, criticizing Owens for calling himself the catch and claiming he didn't know one of the greatest athletes out there. But Biles didn't necessarily sit quietly throughout the conversation when Clark said that Biles was lucky because she took a chance and wouldn't have Jonathan if she didn't shoot her shot. She jumped in to defend herself and remind everyone that they matched first, which means he was interested too, but she was the first to message. I know what I like and I know what I want is what Biles said. Mm-hmm. So, Rhonda, a lot there.
Yes.
And we know this hit the internets and there was a lot of opinion. First, I want to know your initial thoughts on the topic, and are men really the catch?
So my initial thoughts on the topic was it to me, it just turned in a space that it didn't need to. So what I think he was making very clear when he was asked, how did you pull Simone Biles? He was answering the question in a very matter-of-fact way, which is that she made the first move, right? So she pulled him. I think that's fine to explain because that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And there was a point in it because I watched I didn't just watch what was on social media. I went to the Pivot Podcast episode and I watched several minutes around that entire conversation. I also watched later in the episode where they talk more about their relationship and how they really about how he has been blessed to have her and how she's introduced him to certain things like therapy and how to manage fame and all things that she had understood very well before they met. So I got the full context. So I do think that how he was answering the question initially was unproblematic. Like, she made the first move, as in she initiated communication. She was the first one to say, hey. I think he just made it bad for himself. And by going on and saying like, I'm the catch, or that men are the catch. Do I think men are the catch? Sure. I think each person who decides to date and really like each other, I think they should see each other as catches. I think both should see like, I did good. I don't think that you can just make a blanket statement though that like men are the catch, because all men aren't the catch, just like all women aren't the catch. Like, they just aren't. Like, some people are not catch worthy, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But to say that just by gender, like men, all men are the catch, that's just a foolish thing to say. It's just an immature thing to say. So it's not a gender war thing at all. It's all person specific. I think though that was rooted in something that to me is of a greater concern, and I'm gonna take it a bit off of Simone and Jonathan. I find it off-putting when people in a relationship don't revere one another, when there's an opportunity to talk about the other. I think it's very strange when like you'll see a husband deprecate his wife or speak down about her by way of hyping himself and never giving her any credit to the relationship, to the success of the relationship, to that you even like think she's fine or beautiful. It's like, yeah, you know, she cool, but she lucky to have me because I'm this, I'm that. It's like, it's not that you're not all those things, but here when you have an opportunity to revere her, you don't. You miss that opportunity. I think that is more concerning. And it can go both ways. So that's not, again, it's not gender specific. But here, to me, a better way of answering that was, you know, I didn't make the first move. I didn't. But once the move was initiated, I pulled her by being consistent. I pulled her by like, we went on dates and we had a really good time. We had amazing conversations. And I'm so thankful that she did make the first move, because I winded up with an amazing woman and a great woman. And I think if you follow their relationship even slightly, it does appear that they really like each other. They really enjoy each other, and they are happily married from the outside looking in. So that's all. I just don't like when anyone misses the opportunity to revere their person. If you're asked about them, I would think that you would be their biggest cheerleader. You would say wonderful, amazing things about them. And then the last part is, I don't think he was being honest about not knowing who she was. I think that was maybe not initially, like maybe when she first hit y'all matched. Maybe when you came across her profile, even you were like, I don't know the name particularly, but you're not going to tell me on Raya, a very difficult app to get on that is coined as like a celebrity app, that you didn't go off the app and look up Simone Biles. Like, if you just type her in on Google, everything about her comes up very quickly, very quickly. So no, you didn't have to watch the Olympics 2 years ago, which he talks about that as if that's the first time she won the Olympics. It's not. It's just the most recent one. You know, she is the most decorated Olympic gold medalist. So you don't have to watch it to know that about her. And again, if you didn't recognize her face, you could have just Googled it, because that's how big of a celebrity she is. Yeah. So I think that part was a stretch. But again, it goes into that pocket of, are you doing this? I don't know. Like, what's the reason for why you won't revere her in this moment? Like, it's just weird. I don't like when people do that.
So in the moment where he talked about everything that he benefited from in their relationship, you don't feel like he was revering her in those statements?
In those moments, yes. In those moments he was, but not in this particular moment. It was like, I need to make it clear that she chased me, that she wanted me, that she was pulling me because I was the catch. And it's like, okay, like this was, it just made it almost seem like she was a clown or something, like that she was chasing you. And I think it just was as simple as she just found you attractive. Just like that's really all you're basing it off of when you see someone on the app. You look at their face, you look at whatever data they put up there, and it's like, okay, that seems cool. It made it seem like, how I pulled her is really by how she pulled me. It came across very arrogant and unnecessarily arrogant, because you do think very highly of your wife. So why not just frame it in a way that it would come across that way? It just did it. Even when Channing, who I love, was like, boy, what? He just still wouldn't correct himself. He just still was like, I mean, that is how it happened. Like, she did. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, we got it. We get that she said hi first. Even they don't agree on how the match happened. He makes it seem like she matched with me, I hit match back, and then the match popped up, and she's like, that's not what happened. He had already liked my profile, and then I liked it back, and then I just sent him a message because it told me that he had already liked me. The fact that they don't even see that the same way is like, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because clearly y'all are married now. Mm-hmm. But if she wasn't sitting there to correct it, she was not being interviewed. She just was sitting off to the side watching. But she felt it necessary to correct him. You start talking unmiked. You know that you're not on camera. You know that you're not on mic. But this is so important to you that you're like, wait a minute. Well, hold on. That's not really how that went down, because it makes it look like you were pressed or chasing him, because that's how he worded it. Instead of like, yeah, we met on the app. She made the first move with just saying hi to me, and that was that. You dragged it to the point that your wife wanted to correct you. So for that reason alone, it's like, yeah, you dragged it, Jonathan, and you kind of brought a lot of this heat on yourself. You brought it to yourself. So I think it's probably a lesson learned in the moment. But they're also very young. He's 28, she's 26, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of goofy. It was kind of like almost like a competition thing, like who pulled who. It's like, okay, I guess. I guess. I think they're both catches to one another, and I think their careers have absolutely nothing to do with that.
Got you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My thoughts.
Yes.
So I probably slightly disagree.
Okay.
I think that's just normal relationship stuff. I think is I've talked to so many couples, and the how you met story ranges so much with a lot of different couples. Even when we interviewed Cody, she was like, if Tommy was here, he'd probably say something completely different. And I think that a lot of couples joke about that meeting point. Like they joke, yo, you was on me, or you said I love you first. Like even Brie and I already know, you said it first. And I ain't say it first, you said it first. And I feel like it was more, and because it's Simone Biles and a lot of people more know who she is than he is, then it's seen as like, oh, you're, being pressed to try to compensate for something. And that may be part of it too, is that a lot of people, oh, you're Simone Biles' husband. Like that could be part of it as well as the compensation. But I think it's pretty normal for couples to have different stories about how we met or who made the first move. I hear that very often. So that part of it, I'm not as concerned about. And then with certain people's personality, they could just be more boisterous or more like animated when it comes to things, or more whatever. Combative when it comes to certain things. I also think that I do think it's possible, like you said, I think it's possible that he didn't know who she was initially, like you said, at the very moment.
Yeah.
So if he saw Simone Biles and was like, who is this? And then looked her up, I think in his mind, when he first saw her or first saw the name, he didn't really know who it was. And that's his story. And he's sticking to it. And I know that's possible. Like, I don't know a lot of people. Sometimes people follow me. I'll send it to you like, who's this? Or my wife knows nobody. Like she knows nobody.
Yeah.
I remember there was a story we had where Klay Thompson, who plays for the Warriors in Cleveland a long time ago, I guess he was friends with somebody she knew. And he was like just sitting in her living room. And tall 6'7" guy, plays for the best team in the NBA, 4 championships, all-star, like, and she's like, oh, who are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm, Klay Thompson. She was like, what do you do? He was like, I play for the Warriors. I play basketball. And she was like, is that college? And this is like her genuinely like,
I don't know.
No idea.
Yes.
And she knows, and Bree don't know people, celebrities, nothing at all. So I could see like initially, but I think very quickly.
Yes.
He definitely knew who she was.
Yes. He said he went to her Instagram page and saw that she had a lot of followers. And I'm like, I'm sure her bio probably also said Olympic gold medalist or something to that effect. So, okay.
So I could see that maybe he didn't know exactly who she was. And then maybe the next step of it was he didn't know to what extent as good as she was. Maybe that is what he meant. Like he didn't understand that she was like the best ever. Like he may have saw like, oh, she's a gymnast. Oh, she's pretty good. No, she's the best.
She's the best ever.
Gymnast ever. Like,
yes.
Like that's a little bit different. But I reference this a lot that the whole men are the catch thing is that Bree told me that when we first met that I was the first guy she ever felt lucky to be with, that in the past that she always felt like the dudes that she was with was lucky to be with her. And I always thought that was just an interesting comment, especially from the man side, because I think a lot of the relationship between man to women is all about respect. Like, do you respect your man? And I think that it's hard to respect somebody, or I feel like a lot of times if you feel like somebody is lucky to be with you, there's not a lot of respect there because you don't see them as even being on your level. You see you as pulling them up or something like that.
Yes.
So I just find that interesting, but I would, like you said, I think it's just all based off of the person and who the person is, how they behave, if they are catch worthy or not.
Yes.
And I think, like you said, when you're in a relationship, you equally see each other as being lucky to be with one another.
Yes.
But I see people who try to make relationships work where they feel like the person is lucky to be with them.
Yeah.
And I see it more work and happen on the men's side versus the women's side, because sometimes the women are fine with being like, okay, you got the money, whatever you say, you got it. I'm happy to be here. I'll cook, clean, do whatever I need to do and take care of whatever you need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
To where on the other side, I have rarely seen that operate like in a great, healthy, non-confrontational fashion where the woman is taking care of everything and is like the guys are sitting around like, I'm just happy to be with her. And I've seen what Mona called them, cellar dwellers.
Yes.
People that
yes.
that's trying to stick around just to do everything they can to mooch off of a woman, which I dislike for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know about men being the catch just as a blanket statement. No.
Like that's just, and it really just comes down to if you chose someone and they chose you, like you said, you both are very lucky, quote unquote, to have each other. I would assume you chose someone because you feel that they're adding something to your life that you want, that you need, and that you would like to have for a significant amount of time. And I think both people should feel that way about each other. If you are only in a relationship where you're pulling them up, to me, you have a superiority complex that needs to make you feel like make you feeling like a savior makes you feel good for some reason, where I don't want to have a savior complex with my man. I want us to both feel like I need you just as much as you need me. I want you just as much as you want me. Even if I'm stronger in some areas, you're probably stronger in others. So like we make this work together, not like you got everything and I don't really have nothing, or you're smart and I'm dumb. It doesn't have to be such extremes. And so, yeah, that was kind of what I was talking to earlier. Like, don't ever make it seem like your partner is, even if they say it, you know what I mean? Like Bree said to you, I'm lucky to be with you. It's an opportunity to send that back. And I am lucky to be with you too. Like we contribute two different things to one another's lives. And we're very grateful to have each other. I would think that's how you would want your relationship dynamic to be, no matter who you are.
Yeah. But I think when you have a conversation and breaking down the different parts of your relationship, at certain points there may have been imbalance, right? And it's okay to talk about that.
Yes.
But I think what you're talking about is ultimately you got to bring it back home.
Yes.
Like, you're here, you're married. There got to be a reason why.
Got to be a reason why we're here, guys. Yes.
Got to be a reason. So we could talk about all the struggles, how this person needed therapy and how you had to help them and support them.
Yes.
But let's bring it back around at some point to like, how this all makes sense and how it benefited you as well.
Yes, that's all. That's all.
Don't miss a circle. Don't give us a little half.
The little half moon. Yes. Make it clear to the outside, and it's kind of like what our parents would say about how you kept house business in the house, and that in a way was to make sure that on the outside, I should know that you are like there should be a united front.
For sure.
Put it that way. So even if it's things that only you and I know, that's right. That's how it should be. But anytime I get an opportunity to talk about my person, I am going to revere them. I am going to be their biggest cheerleader. I'm never going to make it. Again, we could talk about the issues if that's what we're talking about. But if it's just, how did you meet your man? It's like, well, we might not agree on that particular story, but don't matter because I'm just glad that it happened. I'm so glad that it happened. I'm glad she made the move or whatever. My life is better for it. And I had to do some work, especially once I saw that she was who she was. It was like, damn, she wanted me. And the one thing I'll say, and I didn't think I would say this on this, and I know we got to move on. I think overall the undertone of this is physical attraction, and nobody wants to say that is an undertone of this conversation. Yes, it's the athleticism. It is the fact that he's in the NFL and she's a gymnast. The NFL is just more popular. It's a bigger brand as a sport than the Olympics or being a gymnast. So
in the U.S. at least.
In the U.S., yeah. So it appears that like, oh, he's in the NFL, so the NFL sits higher than the Olympics technically. So I think it's that, but I also think it's most people look at him and think he's generally attractive. Like most women might find him attractive. More women than not would look at Jonathan Owens and be like, he's a good looking guy. Then when you look at Simone Biles, who I think is beautiful, I think is super cute, but would most men generally find her attractive, or would most people see them together and be like, that makes sense? That's the undertone that no one wants to talk about. And I think that is exactly what it is. I think even his mindset was speaking from there, that like,
yeah,
look at me. Yeah, she know what's up. You know what I mean? And it's like, even she says it. I know what I like. I saw something that I wanted, and I engaged with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's the undertone that nobody wants to talk about, that I think people don't want to say. They think that out of the two of them, he's better looking, and so she's lucky. She's lucky to have pulled a guy that looks like that. That's what, and I don't agree with it, but I think that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That's really what we talk about.
And that's a lot of times what we're talking about when it comes to that dynamic is either looks or money.
Looks or money.
That's how we judge who's lucky to be with who.
100%.
You married a man with money, millions of dollars. Oh, you lucky.
Oh, you
don't
lucky.
Mess that up. And you'll have parents, aunties, grandparents.
Yep.
Don't you mess that up.
Could be stupid as bricks, but as long as the money, good job. She could be unhelpful, mean as a snake, but if she looks right, if the package is right, it's like, that's you, bro.
Hey, good nephew.
You did that. I see it.
Hey, don't let that go now.
Yeah, it's like she should be let go. That's all she got. Pops, that's all she got, huh? You know, so that's it. That is the undertone.
I think you nailed that there.
Yeah. So I'm happy for them. Again,
sure.
they seem to be very much in love.
And I'm glad that like it takes time to navigate all this stuff. Like they're young, newly married, newly in this, you know, it's you gotta figure it out. Is this probably one of their first like public interviews in this type of setting to where it's just like free flowing conversation, no cut ups, nothing like that. Like, yeah, you gotta learn. We learned that we had to get our story together. Like we had to learn what is our story?
Yes.
What do we tell people so that we're not looking crazy? And Brie and I are doing a big interview with a big relationship podcast together soon. And it's like making sure that we come off as a uniform front. That's important.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Good luck to the Owens.
For sure.
The Owens, not the Biles, y'all. The Owens. All right. Well, let's get into our real love scenario. We hear from Anonymous this week, and Anonymous says, my partner and I have been together for about 4 years now. We have a 1-year-old daughter together, as well as one child each from previous relationships. We have been long distance due to us being from different cities, and we have never lived together. My boyfriend is a truck driver and has been on the road for over a year now, and only comes home every other weekend to be with me and the kids for a couple of days. Since I have my own home, I'm responsible for paying all of my bills and managing my own household. However, he does contribute here and there, provides things financially, and needs for our daughter. We have talked about marriage, moving together to a new city, and buying a home together in the near future. I feel as if I've been waiting on these things forever and waiting for him to get himself together financially so that he can lead our family and take some of the load off of me. We often have arguments because he does not feel that I allow him to lead and I do not submit to him properly, so he is still unsure about making me his wife for this reason. I tell him that I have no problem with submitting to him once we are in the same household and are sharing some of the same responsibilities and lifestyles, but he thinks I should be able to do it now under our circumstances. I'm at the point where I need more from him and need us to be under the same roof with a real commitment. Please help. Thank you, Anonymous.
Thank you. And we're here to help.
Yes, we are. We are definitely here to help. Lots of layers to this one.
So much. So many things to discuss. So where do you want to start, Rhonda?
I think the kind of first thing that jumps out to me, which is something I'm definitely familiar with, is like how long is too long and how do you move your relationship into those next levels? I've been there, and as a woman, you feel so uncomfortable feeling like you're pressuring your partner to like take it to the next step. You really want them to be trying to make those decisions because inherently, most of us believe that women just are ready all the time for the next step.
We do.
But yes, I want to start there, just like talking about how long is too long to wait for the progression in the relationship.
4 years is a long time.
Yes, it is. It is a long time on the calendar, but is it a long time in this type of dynamic?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they don't have the ages here per se, because I think age sometimes speeds up those types of decisions.
Yes.
Like if they were 23 and 26 or something like that, that's different than 32 and 35. You know,
Yeah.
A lot of times somebody in their 30s might move a little faster towards that. They like, I ain't got time to be sitting here playing with you about what I ultimately want to do. But how long is too long? I think that everything comes down to the plan that you have for yourself. Like, and I think that a lot of people dream, but they don't plan. Dreaming is thinking of something, but not actually writing it down and saying this is what ultimately is going to happen. So they dream, but they don't actually get with somebody and write down this is the plan. So 4 years could be fine if you guys are aligned on that's the plan. I have a friend who just got engaged, been with her since college, but their plan was once she gets her master's, once she finishes her PhD, then we'll talk about the rest of that.
Yeah.
Once she finished her PhD, in the same year, they got engaged. It's the plan. Like, we understand where we both are going. We agree to what we want to do. So I think the length is all determined on the people. But if there is no plan in place, then the length is not 4 years. The length is infinite. It's like there is no time.
Right.
Like, if you don't know what actually, and you guys haven't agreed on what actually is the plan.
Yeah, I think people really don't realize how much of a relationship is based on mechanics. I've talked about this on a previous episode, that like the romance is one thing, the feelings is one thing, that euphoric and all of that stuff, that is amazing. And I don't discredit it, because relationships need it. But it also needs exactly what you were just talking about. It needs planning. It needs real communication. It needs a flow of sharing expectations, pitfalls or things that you need to work on, they need to work on, that you need to work on together. It requires very matter-of-fact, intentional actions that signify this is a serious relationship, and this is a relationship that I want to maintain for my life. And that requires planning. It requires work. Think about every other thing that you do in your life like that. Like every other thing that you have a lifelong commitment to, there's work that needs to take place. Relationships are not just going to come together and just I don't know, this like whimsical idea of how we've been taught about relationships. That whimsical idea is mainly for me around the initial spark. That like how you fall together almost like, oh, I just was out with my friends and then I just met this person and he was so attractive to me and like I really like him and he's saying things that I like and like I'm so attracted to him when I'm around him. I feel the butterflies. But once you decide that this is something you really want to like work at and like see if this will be a thing, the work starts. The whimsical piece, it's in there, but it goes away. There has to be intention. Like, I'm going to call this person today. Today, I want to learn about their family history. All of that is like mechanics. It doesn't sound like it is, but it absolutely is. You're going through a learning process in order to determine the plan, in order to determine how you will do life together.
Yeah. It's like I talked about a previous episode, chemistry versus compatibility. Like more relationships fail because of lack of compatibility versus a lack of chemistry.
Yes.
And I think the issue that you're talking about happens because people don't want the responsibility. Is when with the responsibility comes accountability on your part. And that means if something does not work, then you are the blame for that.
Yeah.
But if you don't put any expectations out there and no plan and nothing to be held accountable to, then if something goes wrong, it just happened. It's not your fault. It's fate. It's all these different things, but you. Or you can blame the other person.
Right.
Like, so I think that's the issue is that people don't want to have that responsibility. But in your opinion, when it comes to dating and you say you had this long-term relationship and been in something like this, how do you know that somebody shares, or what are signs to know that somebody shares the same lifelong vision that you have?
I feel like when you are asking questions or trying to understand like how I envision my future, like and you're asking questions to get to really know that part of me. The questions aren't just like surfacey, like what I like to eat or what my favorite color is or where do I like to vacation. It's not that these things don't matter, but they just don't in the grand scheme of like how I see my life and how I would like to see my life when it comes to having romantic partnership. I think it's also when a person incorporates you in serious things in their life, like so decision making that they are looking at or coming up against. If it's they're looking for new jobs and they're trying to figure out, do I go this route or do I go that route? If they're incorporating you in those types of decisions, or if they even speak in a way that includes you in their future, like I really want to, I'm looking at this job in another city, but like I'm a little hesitant because I don't know how that would impact our relationship. When they talk like that, to me, it says like you are really considering me all the time. You're taking what we have today and kind of foreseeing how it could have an impact on something that we're working on. So I think it's just one, really getting to know who I am at my core and what I want in the future, and also including me in like your serious decisions, even like down to family, like if it's just stuff you're going through or friendship stuff, whatever. But if it's something where you like value my thoughts, value my insight, and we're not just kicking it, it's just like, so what do you think? What do you think I should do? Or how do you see this? I think that those are all good signs that a person is like thinking about a future with you.
No, I completely agree. You nailed it. I think that people who, when it comes to how they look at the future, people who, you know, want you in their future, plan their future with you in mind.
Yes.
I think that's the reality of it, is that with every single decision that they make, they think about you, and they think like you said, taking a job.
Yeah.
How would this work with this person? You know, even meeting new people, making new friends, like all that goes into consideration. I've been there in my life with my wife, like wanted her in my future way before ring, way before marriage. And I operated with her in mind with every single thing that I did. Because the thing is that once you see a future with somebody or you want a future, you're trying to get ahead of the curve as quickly as possible. So with everything that you're doing, you don't want to take steps back if you know you're going to have a future with this person. So you're not going to buy a house that they wouldn't want, because then you're going to have to just either hear it all the time, them not being happy where they are, or you're going to have to buy a new house because that's not the house that they would ultimately want to live in too. And it's just like going backwards. So if they don't have you in their future plans, all we statements and not you and me statements, then that's how you know that if somebody wants shares the same vision of the
Yep.
future as you do.
Yeah. If the conversation is just always on really easy things like television, movies, sports,
But that's the easy stuff. Like you
that's
said,
super
that's the
easy. If
easy.
that's
You
all
can
y'all
connect
talk
with so
about.
many people. Basically, just take anybody in your generation. If you're a millennial, take a millennial, and you could find stuff. Oh, you remember, Usher, when Confessions dropped, and
Yep.
yeah, you remember this and that.
What you think about Katt Williams?
It's just like
That
that's
stuff's
easy
easy.
stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, sharing the long-term vision is hard. But I think an important question, which I want to ask you, which I think leads to this scenario, is how do you communicate a need without it sounding like a threat, and it's still being seen as a serious request with serious consequences? Because I think that's a thing that people struggle with. Like, I'm telling you I need something, but I don't want it to come off like I'm threatening you, because that can come off combative.
Yeah.
But I still need you to understand that if this thing doesn't change, there are serious consequences.
Yeah. I think that one, how you communicate is just important. Your tone, how you say it, when you say it, where you are saying it. I think just those factors around this particular thing are important. So if you are at a point in your relationship where you need to communicate a need, it's something that you should not do out of when you're frustrated. It's something that you should not do when you're angry or when you are having a very visceral reaction to the need not being met in the moment. Like, you take it in and then you find a calm time to communicate this. And I think you really do, though, communicate the consequences, but not in a way that's like, if you don't do this by tomorrow, I'm leaving. All of that feels very harsh. Really give a measurable time frame, and also ask questions as to why the need may not be able to be met, or like why your partner is struggling with meeting the need, especially if you've communicated this before and they just aren't rising to the occasion. It's an opportunity to say, I've communicated that I really need you to pay more attention to my feelings, or not be so dismissive when I do talk about my feelings. And every time it's happened here recently, you are still being dismissive.
Yeah.
What am I missing? Like, is it something like, am I not communicating it right? Do you have a lot going on that's stopping you from hearing me? Like, did you go through something where listening to a woman specifically is hard for you? Like, I want to understand why you are struggling with meeting the need, and that might actually help us both work together on getting the need met. So I think you only get really threatening and like all of that when you feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Like, that's when it starts to get frustrating and you're like, listen, I'm not going to keep dealing with this. But I do think it's fair to say, this is something that I actually need, and I will not be able to have a future with anyone where this need is not being met. It's not like a you specific thing. I would require this from any person that I was in a relationship with, and I really want it from you.
Yeah.
I want it from you. I don't want to walk away from this relationship, but the truth is, I know that I would not be the best partner to you if I don't have this need met. Like, I'm not going to be good for you. And I don't even want to do that to you. So I just think it's about really making sure that you always communicate out of a place of love, even through frustration, that ultimately I love you. And even if this doesn't work out, that's okay too. But I want us to have the best possible chances here by getting our needs met. And we just need to be honest about that, that if they're not, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
But don't like literally use threatening language. Like, if you don't, I will. Like, just say, I really need this met, and I would really like this met. And if it cannot be met, we won't be able to have a successful relationship.
No, I definitely agree. I think whenever you are requesting something in your relationship, I think it first starts with making sure that you're aligned on the central idea of what the request is about anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And what that alignment is that, do we want the same thing at the same time, with the same people, with the same level of conviction? If all those four things aren't aligned, then we aren't truly aligned on the central theme. Because what I really come to realize is that if we're aligned on those four things, then a lot of times the needs and requests end up over time fixing themselves.
Yep.
But if those things aren't aligned, then that's when you have all the issues. So it's not just okay to want the same thing, because you can want the same thing, but in a different time. You can want the same thing, but with somebody else. You can want the same thing, but it's not as high on your priority list as it is for me. So that's why I said you want the same thing at the same time. Got to be at the right time. And we already know that so many things could have happened if the timing just lined up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always line up with the same people.
Yeah.
We hear it all the time. Somebody want to get married, just not married to you.
Yeah.
Like, do they see you as the person?
Right.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
And then the same level of conviction I think is important, because that is the priority. Is work more important?
Yeah.
Is doing something else more important? Is hanging out with friends more? Like, what level? I know that you say you want this, and you say you want it with me, and you say you're ready now, but how bad do you want this?
Right.
How important is this to you?
Yeah.
And I think that, like I said, when those four things align, even if somebody is trying to develop the skills and change habits, they attack changing those things with such a ferocity and like an intentionality when they are aligned on those four things with you.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying this is my request in order to do the thing that we both said we want in this time, like to the level that we both want it, I have some learned behaviors, but I'll go to therapy, I'll read books, and I'll try as hard as I can to get through those things. So I think even in anonymous situation where we're talking about, you know, she wants him to be able to do this and do that. Are we sure this is truly what he wants? Right now with you, as bad as you want it?
Right.
Let's think about that first.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if those things are in line, then he ain't gonna never prioritize what you're requesting if that's not what he wants, if you're not aligned on the vision that you guys have for your lives.
It made me kind of think about, like, at the top when it was, okay, it's been 4 years. And I was like, yes, it's been 4 calendar years of time for sure. But did you have 4 substantial solid years in a relationship based on what you described to me today, which is you all have always lived in 2 different states. You've never lived together. And now, even with living in 2 different states, he's on the road majority of the time. And he sees you every 2 weeks on the weekends. And it sounds like it's almost always with the kids. So it's like, when you think about that across time, it's like, did you have 4 solid years of a relationship? It doesn't feel like it. It feels like you had more of like maybe a year in really actionable things. And then for a significant amount of that, not of the 4 years, but for a significant amount of that 1 year, you were pregnant.
Yeah.
You were pregnant for 10 months, probably, with the child, and doing that by yourself. So it's very hard to say, like, this has been a solid 4 years of a relationship that has bones and a foundation. It still sounds to me, based on how it's described, as like very new and like uncertain. And there's a child in the dynamic, which is a very serious thing to have together. Having a child together is a very serious commitment.
For sure.
That many people stumble into just from unprotected sex. You didn't even plan to have the child, you just did. So now you've found yourself falling into a commitment that you didn't necessarily choose for yourself. So with all of those dynamics, it's like, is this really a 4-year relationship? Yes, in time. But in actuality, it doesn't sound like it, because to me, if you were really together for 4 years, even if you weren't living in the same place, some of these questions should have been answered if you are of a certain age. And then, like you said, we don't know how old they are. They could be 22 and 24, where if you're 22, 4 years ago, you were graduating from high school. But if you are of a certain age, 4 years is a good amount of time. That's a good amount of time to really like be super, like some people get married in 4 years, like met you 4 years ago. You've now been my spouse for a year or two after 4 years of time. Y'all are still like dating and seemingly like getting to know each other, but also parents.
Yeah. Well, that leads to my question, which I think is very interesting, is, do you feel like it's more challenging to fix a current relationship or go out there and find something new? And the reason I ask you that is because it's always easy to be like, oh, if you're not happy, if you don't like it, just go. but we also don't sometimes acknowledge the truth of how tough it is to start over, to find somebody new, to learn somebody new.
Yes.
Especially if you have a child with that person. It's take the money or behind curtain number 2 or curtain number 3, essentially. Like, you don't know what's out there. And sometimes, you know, if you feel like the person is there, almost, you might feel like it's easier just to try to wait on them to get it right and want to be ready versus like just completely starting over. So what's your thoughts being in this situation? You've done it before and you actually chose something completely new.
I think there's no one answer to this question. It's just really not. It depends on what fixing your current relationship actually looks like.
What it entails.
Like, what is that? Like, fixing it includes what particular things. And fixing it is not a single person's decision. So I may want to fix it. I may be willing to do whatever that looks like and take the sacrifices and do whatever is necessary to fix it. But I have to have a partner that also wants to do the same thing. I remember we interviewed DJ Quicksilver years ago, and he said, a couple years ago, and he was like, you know, marriage is essentially the way that you hold on to it is that neither of you stop fighting at the same time. Like, somebody has to stay in the fight, and the ultimate goal is that you both stay in the fight. It's not a fight if I'm just up there punching the air and I'm up here doing all the heavy lifting and you're just like, so it's not as challenging if you both are working to fix it. But a lot of times that's not the actual situation. It's one person that's really committed to trying to make it right and the other person that's giving a lackluster effort to it or none at all. And searching for something completely new, I mean, it has its challenges. I just think both are very challenging. You could have challenges with meeting someone new, but you also could not. You could meet somebody new and it'd be just fine. Like, it worked out. I've seen it happen both ways. I think the part of this question that might be missing is the third choice, which we don't usually give a lot of credence to, is not having either of those as challenges and just being with yourself, just choosing to be single because that's just what makes more sense right now. That trying to date and meet someone new after going through a challenging relationship where fixing it wasn't really an option. Sometimes the best choice out of those two things is neither of those things. Sometimes the best choice is just to sit with yourself and focus on yourself and only get back out there when you can manage the challenges of redeveloping a relationship with someone. Like, it's no real way to determine what's more challenging or not. It just depends on all of the dynamics. But I wanted to ask you, because I think, as I said when we first got on this, is that I think men generally feel the pressures in a relationship to move it along. And I think it can come across as threatening. It can almost make you feel like you're on a clock, like you're on a time clock. How do those pressures make either you feel or made you feel previously, or just men that you know, like that feeling of we've been together for a year, I probably should start thinking about marrying her. Like, does it come across with that energy, or is it in your group of guys like excitement, something that is approached like, I'm really feeling her and we've been together for a while and I'm excited to get ready to take this next step?
From the guys I've been around, it's more of an excitement.
Okay.
It's not like the old ball and chain feeling.
Good.
And that's how it was for me. But I've talked about my background and how I viewed marriage and what I wanted out of it. But I think we all want companionship. We all want somebody we can trust. We all want somebody who's in our corner 100%, ride or die type of thing. So I think if you find that person, you get excited about it. And I think you have to question yourself if you're not excited to plan your future with somebody.
That's a really huge sign.
Yeah, that's a problem for sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. Like, that makes me happy. Like, because the world will make you think differently. That men are like, I gotta hang up my jersey, man. I'm going in the house, like that. Men are just not excited about the idea of having a lifelong partner. And I know for you were excited, and I just was curious to know, like, if a lot of the guys that are your friends, if they feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that's an exciting thing because the single life is exhilarating. it is fun to a certain extent, and especially as men grow in age, which a lot of times grow in financial stability and security and their ability to be able to do more things that do attract women. It becomes more and more fun and harder to settle down. So when you do find somebody that's like, yo, this is a good one, like this is a good one, like that's an exciting thing. And the guys that I know, most of my boys are married or just got engaged. Like you're ready to lock something like that down if it's the right person.
Good. Okay, good. Well, let's move on into kind of the next part of it, which is this career versus family piece, where it sounds like he has a pretty busy career and sounds like she works too, but they have a family that they're managing together but apart.
Yes.
Together but apart. And it sounds like there's this tussle about provision. And usually when that comes up and we're talking about the man-woman dynamic, provision almost always roots in money.
Yes.
The man's gotta provide the bread. If he doesn't, it's like, is he even a man? And it's like, do you think as a man that that's like your number one job? You got men got lots of them, but do you think that that's your number one responsibility in your marriage?
That's tough because you want to say no, right? It's not. But let me ask you a follow-up question to that. What does a man in a relationship not providing look like?
For me, a man, what it looks like for me is that I feel unsafe and lost.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that reversing that question, asking you what does a man in a relationship look like who's not providing, it then takes your mind out of money as a providing, because then you start to look at all aspects of what providing actually is. And the number one thing that women seek from men is security. The providing money part is all just security.
Yes. Yes.
That's all it is. It's security. Women want physical security. They want financial stability. That is the provision or the providing that I think women are looking for when it comes to men. When you're in a relationship with your man, you should feel covered. You should feel safe.
Yes.
That's not just a money thing. That's a demeanor thing. That's a presence thing.
It's an emotional thing.
Yes. A spiritual thing that you feel like if he's here, I'm good.
Yes.
And I had to, in my relationship, understand that like, okay, it annoys me sometimes to breathe. You never know what you want to eat. Every time you leave the house and you with me, you don't take your credit card. It's like, but she feels like if I'm with you,
I'm good.
I'm good. I don't got to worry about nothing. You got it. Like, I don't got to worry about anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to see a relationship where a man doesn't provide. Now, does that excuse being absent? Now that's tough because depending on the generation and the culture, some people would say yes, because your number one job is to provide. If that means you ain't going to be here sometimes, that means you ain't going to be here sometimes, but home is good because you ain't here. But then now in this, new day and age, quality time, doing all, like, we're more aware of certain things and the scales are shifting a little bit, that it's like, I want you to take care of us, but I want you to be here. I want you to be present. Like, you were considered a good man, even if you didn't have the best relationship with your kid, but the bills were paid, food was on the table, like back in the day, like that, you were a great man.
Yes.
And even when we went on the cruise, we talked to the people that worked on the cruise. There was one guy, our waiter, Alfredo. I think it was from the Philippines. His contract with Royal Caribbean is 6 months and 3 weeks, nonstop. Doesn't go home at all. He has a wife and 3 kids. And it's like, to think about that is like, that's insane. You see your kids maybe like a few months out of the year and your wife, and then it's all work. But as a man, he feels like, I'm providing for my family.
Yeah.
So it's like tough. Like
it is. Yeah. It's a very, very hard thing. And I grow so tired. You've heard me say this on this show. I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, you've heard me say it. I'm so, so tired of the money conversation in relationships, because to me, it's a very private experience. It's just like, your spiritual relationship with God, it's a very personal experience. Everyone will not encounter God and have a relationship with God in the way that you will. We're supposed to have our own individual situations with him. Same thing with financials in your relationship. There is no technical right answer in my mind. There is the proper way that the two people do it that have to share and manage finances. And that's not going to look the same for everyone. There's some where the woman makes more money, and that totally is okay, that she provides more of the financial provision or the financial security, but the husband is providing security and provision in a different way, because it is more than money that substantiates provision. I could not, Rhonda McLendon could not substitute emotional provision with money. I just could not. Yeah. It would be very nice to have a very fruitful life financially, like where everything is taken care of, even down to like if I wanted someone to go make me a sandwich, I could just dial them up because they in the other part of the house and they just gonna go make me a sandwich. That would be amazing. But if I have to give up my husband being here more often or being available to me emotionally for me and our children, if I would give up that ability all day long.
It reminds me of them movies or shows where you see like the housewife just drinking all day, just like pouring up the vodka or the whiskey and just like sitting there.
You're just numbing yourself.
Work, but
ain't got nothing else going on in here, you know.
And my husband ain't. Probably with a secretary or somewhere. Like,
yeah, I could not ever. I don't care what the amount of money is. I know the jokes online, like they're endless about like, I don't care. He could be gone for 2 years, as long as that the bills. No, I'm too. Emotions are too important to me for me to ever just be like, well, all the bills are paid. I have everything I want. I drive the car I want. I can get whatever I want whenever I want it. I have people here at my beck and call. But the one person that I actually want to be here is not here because he's just making all of this stuff happen. We would have to find a balance. Like, I'm not saying that you have to be here in my face every day, all day long. I don't want that either. But like the gentleman Alfredo, it wouldn't work for me. Not for an extended period of time. We were doing that just to get over a hump and we needed to sacrifice for a couple years like that. Maybe. But that being my life with you, for the entirety of my life with you, I couldn't do it. It would just make me feel like I'm married but alone, like I'm married but single. Like I never really see you, or the only way I see you is through technology. I never like touch you, lay with you, hold your hand, snuggle up with you, look you in your eyes, truly in your eyes. I couldn't handle it, and I would probably ask my partner like, when are we going to wrap this up? when are we going to change this dynamic?
Yeah, and I think that leads to the central theme of this whole thing that we're talking about now with career and family. Like, even if it's in this situation to where he's a truck driver and only here certain times, and you want to live together, and it's like, all right, where do we live? Who do we ask to move? Do you, if truck driving is your career, do you have to give that up to live here? Like, what is the decision and how do you make it? How do you choose who does what? I think the central theme here is that first, I want people to start, or let me say this, like I said earlier in the episode, stop dreaming and start planning. And the first thing that comes with that is it starts with visualizing what you actually want for your life. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that enough. Just literally write down, this is what I want my life to look like. This is the type of life I want to have with my kids. I want to have a partner that goes to PTO meetings with me. I want us both to be present at my kids' games. I want to live in this area. I want to do that. Like, truly visualize the life you want and put it in writing. Because so many of us, we like kind of just fly by the wind.
Vibes.
And it's just like all vibes and just seeing what's going on. And then we're changing it every which way. And it's like, we can't do that. Like, if you say you want something for yourself, write it down and say, this is what I want. And now as you go through your life, you see how things align with what you ultimately want.
Yes.
And I think that goes with being a couple as well. If you are a couple and you're together and you're saying, hey, when we met, you're long distance, you're a truck driver. Hey, I live here and do this. What do we ultimately want for our lives?
Yes.
And then that's how you make the decisions. What do we ultimately want? Where do we want to live? What type of life do we want to have with our kids? How many kids do we want? Where do we want to send? Are we okay with them going to college? Do we want to be able to pay for college for them? Like, all these things are decisions and conversations you need to have. And this is the visualization and goal that you guys want to achieve for your whole relationship. Yes. Now, every decision that you make stems from the goal and the vision that you set.
Yes.
So if I want to be more present in things with my kids, all right, we need to put together a 3-year plan for me to exit truck driving in order to get something that's more stable, more close to you, so I can be with my family and my kids, because that's the vision that we together laid out of what we want.
Yes, sir.
And it's like, part of that too, in the vision, is saying this is what we want, also asking how much money do we need to get there, because money is a resource.
Yes.
So it's like, all right, I still need to make X, Y, and Z. So that can be the decision of who moves where, where do we go, whose job goes where. And like, that's all from that one central plan of visualizing, putting it on paper, and committing to that as a couple. If you don't do that, it's not a plan. You're just dreaming, and you're going to change at every single thing. It's always going to change every single day. What you want to do, how you feel. But if you guys are aligned on what you're doing and where you're going, then it makes decision making easier. You start to put up boundaries in your life of things you will do and you won't do. But if the field is completely open, it's impossible to have a straight path or you guys to be in alignment, because there is no boundary set up for how you're going to live your life.
No structure whatsoever. I have practically nothing to add to that. The only thing I will say is, like, when you think about, you've gotten in your car many times and you might have had the feeling like you just got home, like you just got there, like you don't really remember thinking about it. Just subconsciously, you've done this thing so many times that the car just feels like it's driving itself. A lot of people are going in through their lives like that, where you're just thinking that you just gonna get there, like it's just going to happen
with no intentionality,
just no plans, no nothing. You just like, it's just gonna work out. And where I think people drop the ball the most is not planning within a relationship, because we view relationships overall as these fairy tale, it just all worked out type of thing. You plan and sit in meetings and strategize at your job. You want to start a business, you get a business partner. You plan and sit and strategize and have a meeting about that. You know that your kid is I mean, not even your kid, you going to school. You go to school, you get coursework. You want to get a bachelor's of arts in blah, blah, blah. There's a whole entire coursework around how you get that particular thing. So the school, professors, whomever, have created a strategy and a plan for how you actually secure that degree. I don't know why so many people think that you don't have to do that inside of relationships. You absolutely have to do that. Like, you just do. Even down to like things that are intangible, like marriage is technically intangible. Yes, there's a document that secures it, but the marriage itself is not something you can like put in your hand. It requires a plan to how you're going to actually get married.
I 100% agree. And before we move to the last point, I just want to encourage people to do that. Like, Bree and I are starting to do that in our relationship more and more. And it's kind of come from me, because I guess I am leading in our relationship, or I am the leader in our relationship, is that I'm starting to operate our relationship like a business.
Yeah.
Because like Rhonda said earlier, there's so much mechanics, like technical things evolved in a relationship.
Yeah.
So now for our relationship, we're putting it in writing and creating even like an organizational chart of our household. Who's responsible for dishes? Who's responsible for the trash? Who's responsible for cooking and food? Who's responsible for the finances? Like, whose main responsibility? We all have input, but whose main responsibility are these things? So there is no question. There is no debate. We talked about it. We understand what the expectation is, and that's what it is. So Bree's in charge of food. She may one day be like, I don't feel like cooking, we're eating out. But that's just her. That's your choice to make. She's still in charge of it. Yes, your choice to make. You don't feel like cooking. She'll ask me, what do you want to eat? So I get a say in what I want to eat and stuff like that. But buying the groceries, like, that's her responsibility. If she needs me to go grocery shopping, she needs to tell me, hey, I need you to go grocery shopping. This is what I need. My responsibility is cleaning the dishes. Clean, like, that's me. You cook, But we put it on paper. These are the things. You're in control of finances, Dre. Does that mean I can't have any control or say over it? No. It's just when it comes to leading, come to researching, come to how we budget, all these things, like that's your skill set. You're in charge of that. The mechanics. And some people don't want to discuss none of this stuff. They just think it's just going to figure out.
Just
or
gonna happen.
If you just say it, like, I'm going to say it. No, you need to actually have a plan, and you'll come to see how like easier your relationship operates, like how there are businesses that operate very well and very efficiently because these are processes documented in place of how to do things and what's going to do and who's going to do what and all the stuff like that. So please visualize, plan, and write it down. It will change your relationship.
Absolutely.
But the last part I want to get to, because leadership and submission is
is the overarching thing here, because my guy is saying, listen, you're not being very submissive. You know, you're not letting me take the lead. You're bossing things around, and it's probably because you're paying your own bills and you're taking care of your own household. But if you want me to marry you, I'm gonna need to see some submission while you my girlfriend / mother of my child. I'm gonna need to start seeing you be a bit more submissive now before I even decide to marry you. And so let's jump into the first question.
Okay.
Do you think this concept of submission and leadership is required, or is it needed in all relationship dynamics? And if not, how do those relationships work without it?
I think it's needed. I think it's needed because it's natural. And what I mean by that is that we are herd animals. We're pack animals. We live in communities. That's just who we as humans are. And we are now in a more modernized civilization, but tell me one country, one city that doesn't have a leader, right? All of them have leaders. Presidents, whether they're corrupt or not, all of them have leaders. All of them have presidents, or, you know, whatever they call it in Britain. I forgot what they call the whatever, kings, whatever. Every civilization, monarch, every human civilization has leaders. If you put 10 people on an island for 90 days, I bet there'll be people who emerge as the leadership on that island and people who follow the leadership and have certain responsibilities. So it's not that even that you have to submit. I think if you put 2 people in a situation, someone naturally is going to take the lead.
Yes.
And someone naturally is going to submit. So yeah, it's needed because it's natural. It's going to happen anyways.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I do.
It's going to happen.
It's a natural thing. It just is what it is. You know, I've said before, I think the dynamics shift depending on what type of relationship we're talking about. Sometimes that it swings a lot, you know, it swings back and forth. Some romantic relationships, it constantly swings back and forth. Others, it doesn't. It just, there is a leader always over all things, like making all decisions. But then sometimes the leader is making, if it's 20 decisions that are solid, the leader might be making 15 of them consistently and the other person is making 5. So I think it is a very natural dynamic in practically all relationships, all of them, from parents to children, I mean, literally across. Yes. And
I want to be clear that what the leader's responsibility is ultimately is to protect whoever is following and whoever is submitting, is to maintain the alignment to the goal. That's what it is for the most part. Like, even with the company I work for, Urban One, I run the podcast network. I could sign shows, I can do, and my boss hired me because he don't really know that much about podcasting. So he's like, it's your show. But his job is to make sure with the overall goal that we stay within that alignment. Right. So that's what Rhonda's saying, like in certain parts, like that may be your section to own. I don't know nothing about that. Like, right. But my job as a leader, like this thing my wife knows 10 times better than me. You got it. You make the decision. Yeah. I don't. Don't ask me to pick up a ginger or garlic. I don't know nothing about the whole thing or the slide. I don't know. Right, you got it. You got autonomy. I just
got to make sure we eat.
I just got the goal. I just got to make sure that whatever we're doing aligns with the overall goal that we said we want for our relationship.
Yeah.
That's all I'm overseeing as a leader. But other like that's part of leadership is knowing when to delegate, when to say you got it.
Yep. Yep.
I ain't got it. Like you smarter than me in this. So yeah,
And
I just wanted to make that clear.
And the other part of leadership, outside of the romantic space, well, maybe not even outside of it, but to me, it's also empowering your partner. It's empowering whoever you are leading to be a decision maker as well, and to be strong enough to own the things that they need to own. Because some people get into a situation where, because they know that there's a leadership dynamic and they are the follower, that they question every single decision that they in fact have to make. The things that you're like, you own it. As a leader, it's also helping them build up their confidence and esteem to say, I trust you. Like, I trust you to make those decisions, babe. Like, you don't have to check with me on every single little thing. Some stuff, baby, I need you to fully own it and run with that. You don't have to ask me.
Rhonda said the key word. If this was a game show or something, the thing will fall down. Rhonda said the key word. Trust.
Yeah.
That's all. This whole conversation about submission is all around one thing. Trust. Because a question could be, oh, I need a ring to submit. No, my wife submitted to me before we even had a ring.
Yeah.
You know why? Because she trusted me. That's all submission is. Submission is just trust. Submission is saying, I have certain things that I was doing, but I trust you to give up control of those things. Because you've shown to be trustworthy with these things.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yep.
And the thing is that it's not really, when it's done correctly, even a conscious decision. It's just like, oh no, like, I trust you. Like, you've shown me enough to be trustworthy. Like, my wife, certain things was a conscious decision, but a lot of things was just like, oh no, like, I've seen day after day after day after day that this is something I don't have to worry about. This particular thing or that particular thing or that particular thing. So giving up control of it is not even, doesn't even feel like a issue or a problem or something I'm like dreading. It's like, no. And if you are finding somebody, and this could vary, but a lot of times, like in this situation, Mr. Anonymous, if she ain't submitting to you, it's because she don't trust you. She don't trust that you can handle the responsibilities if she were to give them to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. She hasn't seen enough of you functioning as this leader in order to trust that you are this leader. It's mouth service.
And I don't think people understand that when a woman is submitting to you, she's giving up something. And you want her to give that. And you want her to give up something without any proof that you can handle the thing that she's giving up. That don't make no sense. Would you as a man do that?
Right. Of course not.
Would you give up something to somebody who hasn't proven that they can handle something?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't do that. So why you expect a woman to do that just because you a man?
Yes.
That don't prove that you can handle this. Just because you a man, I should let you handle everything financial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though you have not proven at all that you can handle financial responsibilities. I'm just supposed to give that to you and just hope and pray
that you do it. Again, that whimsical issue, he gonna get it. It's gonna come together.
If we lose the money, it's just part of the...
Yeah, then what you gonna do, man? Then what? Yes, this is why I say this conversation gets so exhausting, because it's like, child, whoever is actually showing and proving that they can handle said responsibilities and has a track record of doing so, that is who runs that particular part of this dynamic. And it doesn't just sound like it's a matter of like, oh, they live in two different cities and they both are strongly financially managing their individual living situations. It does not sound like that. It sounds like she has her situation under control, but he doesn't even have his individual situation under control. So yes, naturally, the thought of you now being responsible for something that you haven't been able to do for you, I'm supposed to expect you to be able to do it for you, me, baby that we have, and babies that we have outside of this relationship. Yes, that has to be seen. That has to be seen. And what I will say, and just playing a little devil's advocate for him, since he didn't write in, because he said to her, you don't let me lead. you do have to allow room for him to do it when the opportunity shows itself or when it comes up. But I think that's very hard to do sometimes when he's away in the capacity that he's away. When he comes in for those couple of weekends a month, it's like, what is he doing? What are you doing to show that you're very serious about it? When you are out on the road and you're driving because you're making money, do you have a real plan around like, okay, I'm going to make $2,000 this week. I need to use 1,000 of it to pay bills. The other 1,000 I'm going to give to you to start putting in an account so that we can save and start thinking about like buying a house. Is he doing that? It sounds like no, that even while you are in this transitional phase and you all are in two different places, that there's not decisions, actual tangible decisions that show I am planning a future with you. Your gender does not get to just dictate leadership. I know that was a thing, and for many people it probably still is, but we are living in a very different world today where because women can work, because women have to work, like if I don't go to work, my bills are not going to be paid. That's just very simple. So I have to have a job. So when you have someone that has to do that and has had to do that, yes, like I need to know that you can at least do that for you. That's always my minimum requirement, even when I'm dating. Like, how do you maintain your own life? If you are living, which that clip, Lord knows I don't want to revisit it, but if you are living with a family member because you have to, for whatever the reasons are, if it's not because you are financially stable that they're living with you, meaning like aunt, grandma, parent is living in your household, so you're taking care of them. If that's not what it is, then to me, that says you're in a position where you can't fully support yourself by yourself.
Yeah.
So how can I expect for you to be able to financially support us together and lead us in that dynamic? I can't. Just as much as submission comes before the ring, so does leadership.
Yes, it does.
It all has to come before the ring. It does. You can't just ask for submission because she's a woman and you're a man. Those days are long gone. They're just simply long gone. They just are. So I want it for all of us. I really, really do. But I want us to stop getting so caught up on the gender side of it and get more caught up on the reality of it. Yeah. What do you show and prove you can handle?
And I think that conversation starts with what I always say is first defining things, because you guys may have a different definition on what leadership is, what it entails, what's required. So I think that's the first conversation is like, when you say you want me to submit to you, what does that even mean? This is what I feel like I need, or what I mean when I say I want you to lead. This is what I mean. This is what I feel like is required in order for me to get there. When you want me to submit, what is that? What do you mean by that? Like what expectations do you have when you say you want me to submit? Because a lot of times you might have two different definitions of what that is or what's required. And then it's like, okay, if you tell me that's what you want, okay. If you feel like I haven't given you the opportunity to do that, okay. All right, let's set up a plan. All right, I'll relinquish X, Y, and Z to give you the space to do X, Y, and Z. I'm letting you know what my expectation is. But if it doesn't happen, listen, like you would now understand why I don't feel comfortable doing that. And that goes back to exactly what I said before. That's why businesses are successful. Businesses, they innovate, but then they implement, and then they track. And that's how they make decisions on how to move forward with what? The tracking. Every business, let me tell you something, data and analytics will always be a business that will go on for ages. Yes. Because that's the only way to know if something is working or not working. Write it down and track it to see if it actually happens and what happens once you commit to we're doing this. So I think that's part of that, is that if you give somebody space and opportunity, sometimes we just say things, no timeline, no metrics to judge it off of. It's just like, yeah, just do that. And then it's like, it goes 3 months, 6 months, and nothing happens. And then you just get all emotional. But if you can say, this is what I asked for, this is what I wanted, this is the time frame we said what happened within, and now let's look at that. It didn't happen. Yeah, this is why I don't feel comfortable. And we now know and can agree that this is the reason why, because this is what we agreed to.
Before we transition to our final thoughts, I have a question for you. Yes. Did you ever have to ask Bree, word for word, I want you to submit to me. I need you to submit to me. In that choice of words.
No, I said I need you to trust me in certain aspects. Never said I need you to submit to me. No, because like I said, it's trust. That's all it is. I need you to trust me.
Yeah.
Because submit to me sounds like
it sounds
overlord servant type thing.
It sounds like give me your brain out of your head and hand it to me.
Yeah, like give up your will and your decision making.
Yes.
No, what I said is I want you to trust me. And that I know that in this moment you don't see what I see. You don't understand what I understand. But I need you to know in your heart that I have your best interest at heart and our best interest at heart. And if I'm telling you this, it's not because I don't want you to have the things that you want. It's because I know the vision that we have for our lives and what we say we want. And I'm trying to stay disciplined to that. And that's going to come with some sacrifices. So in this moment, I just need you to trust me. And I promise you, if you trust me, we're going to get everything that you say you wanted.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah. Well, let's leave Anonymous with some good, solid advice for her scenario, because I feel like she's at a pretty significant crossroad of like trying to understand what to do. It sounds like she's trying to determine if she should just cut her losses or if she should maybe try to figure out how to have more patience and reapproach this dynamic or this scenario and maintain her relationship with her man of 4 years. So what are your thoughts? What do you think she should do ultimately?
I would have to go back to what I said in the beginning. My central theme for this whole episode. You need to come together and first define, like, do you guys want the same thing? And not sugarcoating it, first I'll say this, start with visualizing your own life, what you want. What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my husband to be like?
Yeah.
What do I want the relationship to our kids to be like? Don't put him in it, just put the person, the type of husband I want, the type of partner I want, things I want to do with my partner.
Yeah.
Write down your plan for what you ultimately want for your life. Once you do that, then talk to him about if he wants those same things. Do you guys align on that? Same thing, same time, same person, same conviction. Because if he doesn't, then there's no need to go any further, because you know what you want and you know that he doesn't want that.
Yeah.
So once you do that, then you guys can have a deeper conversation. If he says he wants all those things, now it's time to put a plan in action on how we get from where we are now to where we ultimately want to be.
Yeah.
We put that in writing. Okay, I want you home. You say you want to be home to spend time with the kids. The issue with you is that you're making good money as a truck driver. So trying to provide the same amount of income while also spending time with kids seems to be conflicting. Let's go to work. Let's figure it out. How do we do it? How do we make it up? Also, I'm here to be your support. I know that you're giving up something for a request that I have. So you know what? I'm willing to help you.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take on more for a period if that means that you can be here more with the family.
Yeah.
And what I want you to do is not let your pride get in the way of me helping you as a woman, because that's what we're here for. Yeah. That's what submitting is. You lead, but I'm supporting. So if you're going through a transition because of my request, I'm going to support you through that transition. And you're not less of a man because I'm taking care of something while you make this transition for something I requested.
Yes.
For our family, for the life that we say we want.
Yep. That part. The only thing that I will add to that, it made me think about this line that Jill Scott said in an interview, where if you could tell me what to do, you could tell me what to do. And that just simply came down to, if you were a leader and you had a certain assertion, you just would. It wouldn't be something that you would have to ask for and declare and put your foot down about. And so while I know he was not the one to write in, and I agree with everything that Dre said, really, Anonymous, starting with what you want first. And then also even maybe having him do the same thing. Like, babe, let's just take these next few days, you know, when you have some downtime while you're on the road, and just like write down what you really want for your life, but don't include me in that. Just the vision of a person, but not me particularly. Then we'll come back and talk about it. If when you all come back and talk about it, you do ultimately want the same things, not just work on the plan and that's great, but really, really be honest. Like, be very, very, very honest. Like, if it is, I know it makes sense that I probably should marry you because we've been doing this for 4 years and we now have a baby. I want to get married, but I just don't want to get married to you. Like, you being at home all day just doesn't work because I don't want to give up truck driving. Like, I want to stay out on the road, and I probably need a woman that is out on the road too. You know, like, maybe that is the dynamic that I need in order for this to actually work. But it's really sitting down and being brutal sounds maybe not like the right word. Just be really honest about it so that you really know what to do. And then after that, if the decision is ultimately that you're not aligned, now you need a new plan around co-parenting. Now that is the focus and that is the plan, because there is a baby in this dynamic, and that part of the relationship is not going to go anywhere just because you all aren't now going towards marriage and a life together and a house together. Now the goal is, how do we be the very best parents we can be to our kid together? And so you got a lot of homework here, but I believe that it could work. It's just been a long time, and I think she's measuring it by the calendar, as I said, and not actually measuring it by what tangibly took place across this 4-year period.
And I think the calendar thing is normal as a woman.
Mm-hmm. It's a clock.
Because it's a clock.
Yep.
And I love, as we ended, that you use the word honesty. I think that that's the key. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're doing any self-evaluation and really planning, you have to be honest with yourself.
You do.
And I think that you have to be honest with what you want. Mm-hmm. And what you think you want. I think it doesn't work. Like, a relationship won't work if you lay out the things that you want and you don't get the things that you want.
Yep.
Or the things you think you want. Mm-hmm. Because there are things that you want that some people may see as shallow or this or that. And you can be like, oh, that's shallow, I'll compromise on that. But if that's really what you want, you ain't gonna be happy. Even if you compromise it and the world tell you that you shouldn't want that thing. Nope. If you want it, and you don't get it, it's not going to be satisfying. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side of that is that ultimately at some point you may not want it, but if you think you want it, you need to get it.
You need to get
because
it.
The only way to know that you don't want it is by experiencing it and being like, yeah, that wasn't all I thought it was. But until you experience it, you're going to think that's what you want. There's plenty of people who experienced something, thought they wanted it so bad and was like,
I didn't need that.
But they were not going to get to that point without experiencing it.
Yeah.
They had to experience it.
Yeah.
So it's like, get what you want. Be honest with yourself with what you want. Don't let other people in the world influence you.
Nope.
Because they can influence you, but you still ain't going to be happy. And it's going to end up in ruin.
It just is. Well, Anonymous, we hope that we were able to help. Please provide us with an update. Y'all know we love a good update. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you checking out the show once again. And listen, follow us on social media, all the things. I'm at Ronnie Cakes.
That is Dre Smith.
And at Relationship Restore. And we are on all socials, okay? So make sure you tap in with us, but especially on TikTok. We want to see you over there. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.